Welcome back to the Always Reading Book Club. It is your girl Kiki Reader, and we are diving back into our Condemned series by Allison Ames. Now, if you haven't listened to Book One's review, which is called Trapped, that link is going to be available down below in the description section. Once you get caught up on that, come and join us as we dive into Book Two, and it's called Taken. We pick up with Cadet Ava Davies. She's in a dark, dank place, and so is Officer Pratt. She doesn't know what's happened. All she knows is she was getting samples, and when she woke up, she was here. So we find out she is kind of like near like the center of the planet. She's in some type of a cave, but it's further down. We find out that this is where the prisoners mine for silver and any other type of valuable metal, and it's sent back to New Earth. So this person tells her, we don't know their name, we just know he has yellow eyes, and so that's what she calls him. He tells her that her job is going to be to get a certain amount of silver each day. If she doesn't get it, she's going to be taken out. And so the first thing she's thinking is like, oh my gosh, I don't want to go through any more torture. So we get flashbacks and we find out how Ava Davies got her name. She paid for that cover. Her real name is Ayanna Tallis, and she was married to a councilman named Hollingsworth. That's his last name. I think they told the first name. I just don't remember, but I remember the Hollingsworth. And she was his fifth bride, and she was a breeder. Now, as much as I'm assuming with a breeder, at this point, that means you're just going to keep having babies. That's what that sounds like, but that's all she says. So we also find out that he had implanted something into her brain for his sick pleasure. So it has an effect on her to where she gets these uncontrollable urges and like she has to have sex. So she had found or concocted a medicine to suppress those urges, right? But since the crash, she still had a couple, but of course, right now, she's got one in her pocket, but she can't exactly take one out in front of, the people that have taken her. We also find out that she had used some technology that changed her face. Because we got to remember, this is in 9015. So she was able to have a different type of face, different eye color, everything, which I thought was super cool, and it completely made me think about the Orville. And I know they do this on a lot of all of the space shows, but it makes me think about when they had to go on one of the krill ships, but they did full body, complete body change to the krill form. So I just thought that was super neat that she had this technology, and now it's worn off, and now she has her true green eyes are coming through. And I just think that's just super cool. I don't know, because that's just so it's just so space techy. I love it. Future tech. So she takes her spear out, and the guy with the yellow eyes, and she stabs him in his foot. She gets away, but then she's caught by someone else who's even bigger than the guy with the yellow eyes. This guy has on a metal face plate, so she can't see his face, but he is pure muscle, no fat anywhere. And he's really tall, almost seems unreal. But then she sees on his spear, it looks like it's glowing. It's the ore material, which is what she came to this planet looking for in the first place. We don't know why, but that's all we get for right now. So she's on her knees because she knows if this man hits her, she gives up because she knows if he hits her, she's dead. So she puts her hands behind her head, doesn't move, and then she hears someone, and they were talking about sending folks pretty much to the incinerator, and it's supposed to happen in 5 minutes, and she starts freaking out because she's like, oh my gosh, like I can't go in an incinerator. So then we meet Hunter Valdez, and he is one of the workers. Yes, I'm excited because we're going back and forth between some characters. You know, I love it. I will say this, throughout the book, it will call him by Valdez. I like his first name, Hunter. So I am going to call him Hunter. So Hunter, you know, he works, he does what he's supposed to do, just tries to kind of pretty much kind of stay out the way a little bit. But he hears a plea from someone, and the person saying, you know, we don't belong here. And it sounds like he's heard this person's voice before. And so he goes over because it's a woman's voice. And the woman is like, it's true, because it's Pratt yelling out stuff as well as Ava. I'm going to still call her Ava. I don't want to call her Ayana, even though that's technically her real name. But I'm going to still call her Ava, okay? So he hears the woman's voice, and then he hears the woman say, you know, we were on a science mission and all this type of stuff. But he recognizes that voice, and he turns around. So Yellow Eyes is like, you know, she's mine. I guess he's having like this back and forth with this other man or other person. And Hunter comes up. He's got his mask on, and he says, no, I got this one. And he takes her. And she's thanking him and stuff. And he's like, don't thank me yet. And when she hears the voice and he lifts up his mask, she goes, Hunter Valdez? And then we get him with the memory, thinking back to how, because he says her full name, and he says Ayanna Tallis. And we find out that she was at his trial every day. And she, of course, is stunned to see him, even though she knew this is where he was sent. And he tells her that he's going to punish her. He's going to punish her. And it's going to be a lot worse than what she probably had anticipated. So an ambush happens, which throws him off just a little bit. But he still is able to take out a few folks. She tries to run away, but what happens is when that ambush happens, she's not able to. Because when they see her, they yell out fresh meat. So then he grabs her up, snatches her up, and starts running in the opposite direction. So she's thinking about trying to stab him. He tells her, don't even think about it. He's like, whatever thought you're having, you know, just don't even do it. She tried to punch him in the rib. Didn't have any type of effect on him. So he's running, and of course she doesn't know where he's going, because she doesn't know anything about this place. But clearly he has a vengeance for the council people and their affiliates. And he keeps calling her a breeder, because she was the fifth bride and a breeder. So they finally get to wherever they were running to. He asks her, why did the council send you down here? And, you know, he's thinking, you know, she's a spy or something. She's like, no. She's like, I'm a scientist, you know. And she's been working the past 2 years, learning all kind of stuff. The last 2 years that she was with the councilman, she had been learning about his nanotechnology. So we find out she didn't know that the mining for that mineral was being done on Drive 25. So she tells him, she knew he had a tracker in him, because I guess everyone does. And she was like, I can disable it for you. He, of course, doesn't believe her. And she's like, you know what, fine. If you don't believe me, don't believe me, you know. And so then she's just kind of like, just go ahead and get it over with, like whatever you're trying to, whatever the punishment is. But he was like, oh no, I'm going to use you. Back on Earth, Hunter was a freedom fighter. So he was part of the resistance. And he took out some bad people. And he apparently was condemned to Dragon 25. He lost a lot of good comrades in the process. And so with her being here, he has an idea. So he had heard rumors, a couple of rumors. One was that she had left Hollingsworth to go be with another councilman. Another one was that she went to be with Hollingsworth's brother. And the third was that she had run away. But he thought that was the least likely. But that happens to be the actual story. So what he's going to do is use her as bait, because he knows the councilman is going to come after her. So if he can get the council drawn down to Dragon 25, then him and his men can attack on their own turf. So she, of course, is like, okay, so you're going to get them down here, but then what are you going to do? And he pretty much let her know he's going to kill him, She's like, but what if you fail? And he's like, I won't. She's like, but what if you fail? He says, it won't matter, because then we'll all be dead. So he gave her some food, which was some kind of moss that grows at the bottom of the caves. And it helps to kind of ward off the thirst. So she was drinking some water, but she had started drinking it too fast. And he had to tell her to slow down. He's like, you drink too much too fast, it's going to hurt you. So she eventually complied. She's in her head thinking of ways of how she's going to escape, because clearly she doesn't have a plan right now, but she also has no plan, no, how do I say it? She's not trying to go along with his plan either. They start moving again at different times. He's having to, like, take people out, kill them, because they're still trying to get to her. So they start moving again, and they have to stop because they hear someone being raped, and it's so hard for her to hear this. He keeps telling her to keep quiet. She's thinking, like, we should try and help. He's like, sympathy will get you killed here. So then when it kind of subsides, they're having this little conversation, and he realizes, okay, she might really know what she's talking about when it comes to this whole neutralizing the tracker thing based on their conversation. And the issue, of course, is that it could be an evasive type of procedure. And that's kind of the and you got to remember also, it's not like she has all of her, her lab stuff with her. So it's going to make it kind of hard for her to do it. But it really does sound plausible when he listens to her talk about it. So then as things quiet down, they're about to go out, and he tells her, stay behind me. And so basically he had to take out like a bunch of men that had like RAPED, the one guy. And it winds up being the guy who in the beginning had this, he had this death written across his chest. It was him. He's a big dude. But they tore him up. So she goes over to the guy, 'cause she's, this sympathy, which he told you will get you hurt, right? She goes over to him, and the guy grabs her and says, now your turn, bitch. So then Hunter has to come over, save her ass, slams the guy against the rock, and I think his head cracked, so he should be done for now. Then they race through, and they get to somewhere safe, and I told you, you cannot let your guard down. You just can't do it. It really is something that'll get you killed. And she was like, I'm just not used to this. I'm not used to living like this. Even though she had to keep her guard up, being, living with the council, she knew the rules. But here, the rules don't make sense, so she can't wrap her head around it. And she's trying to apply logic, but logic doesn't work here. So she starts having an arousal episode, but it looks like she's having a panic attack. So he's trying to talk her through it, not realizing it's not a panic attack at all. So he's trying to, he's being kind to her. He's talking to her. He's trying to talk her through it. And she says, he says some really nice things to her, And when he looked, she looked at her, and he was trying to find, he's like, what do you need me to do? Like, what do you need, Because he saw like lust and stuff in her eyes, and he didn't understand it, because he's thinking again, this chick is having a panic attack. And so then she tries to reach for her pill, and he sees her reaching for something. He's thinking she's going for a weapon. So he knocks her hand, but she didn't have the pill. They had fallen out. She didn't have it anymore anyway after everything that they had gone through. And he kind of got pissed because he's like, damn it, he was starting to feel sorry for her and stuff like that. So that was funny to read. He even thought that maybe like one of their like they're not lizards, but they're kind of like lizards, had like bitter and left slime on her. Like, so he's looking, searching her body for some type of wound. Like, okay, something must have, hurt her, but he's not finding a wound. So he's like, would you just tell me? He starts to threaten her, He's like, I'll go back and find that soldier, and, I'll have, you have the same fate as he did, And then she tells him, I need you to fuck me. He's floored. He's like, what? And so she explained there's a chip that was put in her brain. And every 12 hours, she needs sperm in her. If she doesn't get sperm, she starts to go through like this agonizing pain, possible seizures, and then if she doesn't get it, there's death is what is going to happen to her. He's floored. He could not believe that even Hollingsworth had done that to her, So this changes a lot, right? Because he, of course, had this one thought process about her, and now he's realizing, okay, she kind of was going through hell too, being with counsel. So he had asked, I guess, about the other wives. They didn't have those issues. Like he didn't put anything in them. He tested it on her. And that was because he couldn't get her submission. So this was his way of getting it. Like, if you want to, you got to think about it. She didn't want this man, right? So if he wanted to fuck her, she'd say no, and that was it. Well, now I make it to where you have to have sperm in order to survive. I'm going to get what I want from you. It's despicable and awful, but that's what he did. So he asked if she could have children, right? And she said no. Because of how it heats up her womb, she can't have kids, Because he was kind of concerned, because he was ready to help. But he also thought, like, this is no place to, like, bring a child into on this freaking planet, And so he's willing to help her. And so she strips down. And she bends over away from him and grabs her ankles. And he's just kind of like, what are you doing? And she says, well, that's how Hollingsworth would take me. And he could tell she was kind of shutting down, because clearly, it's a certain place she had to go if she had to fuck Hollingsworth. He's like, turn around. He's like, I don't want it like that. She's like, well, what do you desire? And he says, keep your eyes on me. He's like, I'm going to fuck you, but I'm going to show you what it's like to want it. He gives her a wonderful experience. Sucked her tits, ate her pussy, fucked her nice and slow and then hard. The girl came a couple times. She had never experienced anything like that before. And then, of course, he had to come inside her. And then afterwards, we hear someone saying, oh, one of Hollingsworth. I can't wait to make her scream out too. So the person that yelled this out is Riker, and he is one of Hunter's men. So we find out basically Hunter has a crew, and he's like the commander. So they're having conversation back and forth, and he's pissed because he's like, you were supposed to meet us in the mess hall, and basically, if we don't, we can't do anything for another 12 hours. So that's why he came looking for him. You can tell reading there's tension between the two of these. We just don't know fully where it's coming from. So of course she hides behind Hunter. He told her to put her clothes on. And so they're going to the mess hall, but he's thinking, how the hell is this going to work? They head out and they get to the mess hall. We find out that this is not a mess hall like you would see, like where there's tables and people are eating and stuff like that. No, this is complete and utter chaos. There's droids there, there's fighting going on, and she describes it as another level of hell. So all we know is that Hunter is like, okay, I'm going to have to basically leave you with Riker because he has to do something, which freaked her out because she was thinking like, oh, you're passing me off to Riker, right? But they had to keep her shielded because if people knew who she was, I mean, all hell would have unleashed. So they've got her covered up. So Hunter did tell him, because Riker might have said something about fucking with her. And Hunter said, you don't touch a hair on her head unless she says it's okay. And he tells him, remember, it's only about pleasure, no pain. And he also brought up Riker's wife that died, named Sarah Lynn. He brought her name up, pretty much like be the guy that she knew. So she's freaking out. And I could understand why, because you are pretty much saying like, okay, if you fuck with her, just, don't hurt her. So it does very much seem like you're passing her off. So I get it, because I'm like, we're nowhere near these 12 hours again. So then he leaves her and he goes up to this huge fucking guy. The guy looks like he is just damn near touching the ceiling. And all we know is that the monster swings on Hunter. So there's a whole fight. Hunter and this guy. I'm going to call him a monster because he was huge, even though he was a man. But he apparently was really huge and was very savage. But then again, they all kind of are. So we find out from Riker that the reason this is going on because the mess hall is where they have inmates fight, because anywhere else, if they fight, the drones will automatically shoot and kill them. But here it's kind of sanctioned and they can do it because it's entertainment for the guards who are really on lunch and are watching through the drones that are flying around, which is absolutely crazy. So Hunter winds up, I think he killed the guy. Yeah, I think he wound up killing the guy because when he looked over at Ava, Ava was starting to get worked up again because of her temperature was rising and the excitement. One of those spells was starting to come on a little sooner. And he saw Riker grab her, but Riker was grabbing her to stop her from running out there because she was going out there to try, I don't know, I guess try and stop it. I don't know. But it like turned Hunter into like this beast, and he lets out this roar. And that did it. And he wound up taking the guy out. So then afterwards he comes over and the other men are there as well because they had to help like keep her hidden. And he winds up taking off her covering that was covering her head. And as they're walking off, she realizes what he's doing. And she yells out, "No!" So he, of course, says to her, "It's got to be done." And she explained to him, like, she knew, but I guess because they had shared that intimate moment, it just kind of, she said it felt like you fucked me and then you fucked me over. And I don't know. He was honest. He said we can't keep everyone off forever. Because what he had said when he took the head wrap thing off, he said, Hollingsworth, I got something for you. Okay, so she's upset. I get it, but at the same time, she got to understand. He just met you. Yes, he just fucked you, but girl, he just met you. And when he met you, he told you he had something in store for you. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. You can't get that caught up after one time. I'm just saying, like, you see this hellhole that these people are in? Like, you are the perfect bait. So, yeah, he's going to use you for that. Like, I don't know. But deep down, I mean, I feel like she knew it. It's just she didn't like it. And that's okay. She's totally entitled to feel that way, but I'm just like, all this shock. I don't know what you're shocked for. Like, these people want to get off this damn planet. He tells her, we can't keep everyone from you forever. We can do it for a period of time, but we cannot do it forever, and I can't endanger my men like that. And so again, even though she didn't want to accept it, she knew it made sense. So then she overhears, Bride, is that you? Well, what she sees and hears is a hologram of Hollingsworth. And at first he's doing this whole bride, um, we get a little backdrop as to why Hollingsworth is the way he is with her. And it's kind of what I described earlier. Basically, he couldn't break her, so he found a way to try and break her. So now when she left, she escaped him. He's become obsessed with trying to get her again, um, and to break her further down. So it's an obsession. It's not an affection. It's nothing else. It's literally just because he needs to watch her not have control. That he has complete dominion over her. That's how you know he's a sick fuck. And that's how you also know when it comes to power how some people just cannot handle that. Like, this man has other wives that will do whatever he wants. That's not good enough. He needs what it is that's eluding him. And that's control over her. So he'll call her bride. He'll even call her, by her birth name. He'll call her Ayana. Um, just a whole mess. We also find out she was hiding in plain sight. Like, she never left New Earth. She was right there. But she had used his technology against him and was able to, get into the academy and do all these things right under his nose. And he had no idea. And he still doesn't know how she did it, which is kind of cool. So we find out that, remember how I said they mine for the silver, and they mine for ore as well. Well, that ore is being used for different technology that he's had his scientists create. And so now he has taken it a step further with the trackers that are in all these inmates, right? Well, they call them inmates, but they're not in anywhere. We'll just say prisoners, because they're prisoners of the planet, but it's not like they're stuck somewhere. Or confined to like a little space. They can roam the planet. It's just not the greatest planet. So he's had some work being done. And now he can send some type of like I don't want to say message. We'll say message or signal. And he can make these men experience excruciating pain, like debilitating pain. And it can even go a step further, we find out. So while he's talking, because he's talking to her as well, asking, he's saying, how have you been, my bride? And you couldn't have been that stupid to think that, you know, I would just let you go, that type of crap. And he also talks about how, the resistance is no more and people have forgotten about you. And she speaks up and she says, you're a liar. She says the resistance is still happening, and these men are very much remembered back on New Earth. And this, of course, angers Hollingsworth. And so Hunter whispers in her ear, like, we're going to run. So they know how to evade the drones. But unfortunately, Hollingsworth has improved on the technology. Hollingsworth swipes his hand, and all of a sudden, those drones point at the prisoners, and it sent a message and it starts torturing them. So now, if they don't meet quotas or for whatever reason, he can literally make them explode. And he does it not to one of Hunter's men, but he does it to a random soldier, just to show that he can literally make them explode. And so he did that with another guy, one of the other prisoners, and the guy exploded. His guts are everywhere. So now he's starting to inflict the same pain on Hunter's men, and they start falling to the floor. She realizes it's not affecting her. So she gets on the ground with the men and tell them, grab onto me, so it'll stop their pain. He, of course, is now infuriated. Hollingsworth is, because she's openly defying him. And on top of it, she's outsmarted him. So now he is beyond pissed. So he tells her, you might have won today. He says, but what makes you think I won't just kill you now? And she says, because if you kill me now, you won't know if you could have ever overtaken me. And that's what drives you. So he's pretty much like, when I get you back, I am going to torture you, and I'm going to torture them in front of you, and I'm going to kill them in front of you, and you're going to watch it, and you're going to know it's all your fault. But before he gets off before his drone leaves, he says, he makes a decree to all the other prisoners. And he says, if you bring her to me safely, I'll give you full pardon. And then he goes away. And now they've got to get the hell out of there, and they've got to shield her, because this is about to get extremely this is going to get crazy. This was already a chaotic place. But now you're telling them they could possibly have their freedom again? This is wild. So they're running, and they finally are able to escape. They took a while because they had to fight off quite a few inmates that are coming at them. But they know those caves like the back of their hand, so they're able to get away. They also split up because, and they'll meet up at the correct time and place. They all know where to go. They know where to meet up at. So then it's just Hunter and Ava, and he winds up jacking her up against the wall, and he's like, now what was it you said to me about not touching you again? So again, he knew, like, because of her dilated pupils and stuff, he knew she was having one of those urges. We'll call them episodes. I like episodes. We'll say those. And he was like, I know you need to be fucked. And she's like, no, I don't want to be fucked by you. Not after what you did. She's pissed. And so he asked her, well, why did you save me and my men? And she said, because I'm not a beast. I'm not a savage like you and Hollingsworth. So he got pissed because he's like, I am nothing like him. And she winds up telling him, give me to somebody else. And he roared at her. He's like, no one touches you but me. He's honest with her. He winds up selling to her like, shit, I didn't mean to care for you, but I do, you know? And he tells her, like, I want you to be that person you just was. Like, you don't, not hiding in the background. I want you standing right along with us, you know? And he's like, I want that self-assured Ava. And so she had her condition. She wanted to make sure, you know, that he stopped talking or treating her like a captive. There was no more captor-captive relationship. Um, and that when Hollingsworth comes, she also wanted him to let her go. It was like another stipulation that she had. Um, and then it was something else she said. And then she was like, and lastly, like, she needed to be fucked. So they stopped talking. So then they had a hard fuck session, and then she starts hearing this humming sound, and she's like, what is that? And he's like, Hollingsworth is calling us back to work. So they head towards the mines. He vows to her that, you know, he'll get her to the surface going to have without having to go back to Hollingsworth if that's not what she wants to do. If she chooses to go back, she can, whatever. Um, he swore his life as well, and she realized, oh my gosh, like, yeah, this shit is different. She's never had someone want to protect her, so this is very foreign to her, and yet it's confusing because it's like she can understand hating someone, but the idea of anything else is weird for her. He told her, you know, he's gonna protect her when they go to the mines. She can get ore, like, because that's the thing. She needs the ore. She needs to melt it down, and that way she can try and defuse these trackers. So the whole goal is to just pretty much try and make it out alive. And so he's like, are you ready? She says, I'm ready. He says, you're not. No one is ever ready to be down here. So they get closer, and then Riker comes and joins them, and then the other men come as well. And he tells them about the changes in plans, and he's like, we're going to wait until everyone's there to tell the complete plan. And all of the guys wound up thanking her for what she did. They realized what she had sacrificed, and they appreciated her for it. Even Riker appreciated his little smart ass. He told her thank you as well. He was still being a ass, but that's just kind of who he is. She could see the ore. It looked even more beautiful than what she had anticipated. Hunter gave her his face mask to help her so she wouldn't have all that heat hitting her face. And he told her, you just concentrating on making sure you get what we need for the serum. He's like, and I'll make sure we make quota, both of us. So Riker, what did he say to her? No, I think he might have said it to Hunter about, you know, I hope you don't think it's going to be some happily ever after, you know, when you get to the surface. And he said, you know, you remember what happened with me and Sarah Lynn, you know, and Hunter's like, that was, you know, horrible what happened to you all, you know, but he, Riker just made me laugh. He's such a smart ass. It just makes me laugh. Ava was happy because she did feel like she was a part of the crew now. You know, she was part of something bigger, and she was accepted, and that did make her happy. So they're working hard. She doesn't have enough. And she's like, oh my gosh, you know, we've been working so hard and I still don't have enough. But Hunter told her, we'll get enough. Don't worry about it. We'll get it. Then there's this howling sound, and she hears it, and up comes a guy named Drake. And he has a deal. We find out he's Hollingsworth's flunky, right? So he's offering like 30 pieces of silver, which I guess is how you get time off and stuff like that, for the woman. So all the men say no. right? And this is where just he's just talking to Hunter and his crew. Then he ups it to 75 silver pieces. And they've never, like, that's something you can't even make in a month, but they still say no. They all shield her. And then Drake brings out Pratt and another prisoner. And he's like, well, what about a trade? So she wants to help Pratt, so she's yelling out to help him, but at the same time, giving you over is not an option. You know, you've got to make the serum, so that can't happen, you know? But it's torture for her to watch Pratt be in so much pain and not be able to help him. Because she had to tell Pratt like it's her because she looks different. But he couldn't really see her when we first started in the cake. He couldn't see her, but now he can see her, and he's looking like Davies, you know, because her face is different. But she at least understood she can't do it, right? And Hunter tells her, like, listen, sometimes there's got to be a sacrifice for the greater good, you know. And if he's a sacrifice for my men to live, then he's just got to be the sacrifice. I'm sorry. Again, she understood it. It just sucked. So they get to the weigh-in. She gets through. But before she made it through, she's looking at the drones because she knows Hollingsworth is looking at her. And she knows something is bound to, like, kind of pop off because this decree's been made. So she knows people are coming. So when the drone comes by, she says again, try it again. I'll throw myself on him again, you know? The drone backed off. So now Hunter's up. And he had told her, like, no matter what, you go with Riker. She, of course, looked at him like, kind of like, why, you know? But she agreed. So then they start hear rumblings, and it's Drake coming. He has Pratt on his knees. He's trying to bargain again. And Riker told her, don't you dare, you know, like, don't you fall for this, you know. And Drake offers 100 kitlums, whatever that is. And, of course, chaos erupts after this. So now Riker knew what was happening. He knew they were trying to truly get to her, but they knew they had to get through these guys first. So they're fighting off folks. It's awful. One of the men from the crew gets hurt. He's crouching over. Another guy goes after him. And she's like, guys, just go. Run. Like, she was ready to give herself up just so they could make it. And Riker was like, no, we can't leave you. She's like, no, at this point, it's the only way for us to survive. She's like, I can tolerate whatever, you know, Drake is going to put me through, but none of us is going to survive if we keep going like this. So then Riker tells her, you know, like, you shouldn't have to go through what that monster's going to try and do to you. He's like, no one should be alone with that monster. And then she's like, but it's our only chance. So they were about to give in to her plan, but then here comes goddamn Hunter. He comes running through. He's killing folks. He does whatever he has to do to get to her. And it's like a new surge of energy in all the guys, you know? And so now they're taking people down. Griffin did get hurt. But they grabbed him, he came on, and I think it was someone else who got really badly injured. But I can't think of the name. But Hunter wasn't leaving anybody behind, so he scooped the guy up. And we find out they've only been on this planet. I mean, I'm gonna say only, but they've been there for 2 years. I was thinking for some reason they had probably been there for much, much longer, but it's only been 2 years. So he goes back, and that's when Hollingsworth shouts through the drones and tells Drake to stop it. And he says, you know, bride, you think you've won, but you haven't. Now I'm going to make sure I really torture you, and kill them in front of you. So now they're really like, we got to get out of here. And she had dropped some of the ore, which sucks because they didn't even have enough from the get go. And he's like, there's no time. We got to go. We got to go. So they wind up having to scatter again from each other. Um, but that they had to do it. There was no way they could all stay together. Um, when it's just her and Hunter together, they do have a reckoning moment of honesty. He tells her how much he cares for her. She admits she cares for him as well. She was ready to fuck, but he wanted to show her something beautiful. So he showed her a waterfall, which is something she hadn't seen on Earth since water was so scarce. And it was absolutely stunning to her. So there is still a little water on Earth. I think in the first book I said there was none. It's still a little bit, but it's just really, really scarce. Um, and he just told her he wanted to show her that even though this planet was, awful, that there was something beautiful on this planet. And she says, I already knew that because you're here. That is so sweet. I'm like, oh my gosh, tear. So they have their back and forth, and she's upset because, she wanted to have everything, enough to help everybody, and she doesn't have enough, and it bothers her. But he's like, don't worry about it. We're going to figure out a way. You know, he wants to see her in the sun. And he even said something sweet, something about seeing her underneath the stars. It was so sweet, so freaking sweet. And so she is afraid of what she feels for Hunter, because to feel that much for someone, in her brain is saying like, this could destroy her. Like, if this shit don't work out, this gonna fucking hurt, um so what happens? They have a nice heart fuck in the water. Great scene to read. So then after their session, he goes and talks with the guys, and they're trying to come up with a plan. He thinks what he's going to try and do is distract the drones, and then they can sneak in and get as much of the ore as possible. But it's too risky. Riker doesn't like it. No one likes it. Ava comes over. She says that's not going to work. She says the minute he sees that I'm not with you, he's going to take you out. She's like, I got to go with you. And then Griffin says, well, I know a place that has tons of ore. And everyone's looking at him like, you do. And he's like, yeah, on the west side of the mines. Well, apparently this is a really dangerous part. I guess men don't really go over there. And I'm thinking because it's probably those monster animals that are probably on that side. And so Ava says, are you sure it's the right type of ore? He doesn't know. And she's like, then I got to go with you. Of course, Hunter's like, no. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not going there. It's too dangerous. And she tells him this is happening with or without you. She gets her axe and she gets to walking. And she tells him, I hope you come with me. And he joins her. They're in the mine. They're having conversation, and we get a little backdrop of what made him join the resistance. So he used to be a party boy. And what happened was there was an order that came down from Hollingsworth to kill a bunch of old people and children. And his leader at the time was like, he was not going to do this. And he took it to the council and told him he wasn't going to do it. And he's never been seen from again. Well, the very next day, he joined the resistance movement. And so how he got caught was there was a false rumor that went out that the council was coming to destroy women and children in this village. And he felt like it was a lie, but he at the same time didn't want to take the risk. Well, unfortunately, that's how he got captured. And we find out that while he was at trial, this is actually what helped Ava get away. Because Hollingsworth normally didn't allow the brides to go anywhere, but he had allowed them to come to this trial. And it was probably just to see him in all his glory, you know what I mean? And so they locked eyes, Ava and Hunter, even there. She saw strength in him. And she actually admitted, like, you know what, that's what gave me the strength to leave, is I saw how you could stand up in front of everything that you were going through and still have, that that strength, and I was like, you know what, I can do this. And he was just kind of like, oh wow, like he would have never thought like that he had inspired her. So they were attracted to each other from the get go, really. And she tells him about, that's when she had gotten the facial technology and stuff like that, changed her eye color and all this type of stuff. And he was really impressed, because again, she was hiding in plain sight. And no one knew the difference. And so as they're talking, he looks over her shoulder and he says, Ava, we got to get out of here. There's a sabanther, so I'm assuming something bigger than a panther, freaking huge, and it's in this cave. And it looks like a monster. He was able to strike it once. It caused it pain, but it didn't kill it. It cries out, this howling sound echoes through the caves. And he tells her, like, you got to get out of here, concentrate on making sure, well, let me say this right. He needed her to go so that he could concentrate on fighting the bear. Not bear, it's a sabanther. But because he knew if she's there, his thought is to keep her safe. And then you don't make the best decisions. So he needed he needed the concentration on, killing this thing. And so he tells her to run, go tell the others, get to safety, and he'll come for her. Well, she didn't want to leave, but he explained to her again why she was going to leave. And then when she's about to go, they hear sounds, and there's two more sabanthers that have popped up. So now she's not going to leave him. And so she comes back with her axe. He kills one. I think he killed two, actually. She wound up taking care of one of them. Teamwork, they did it together. So then they get back to the other guys and they tell the story. So now she has a new nickname. She's called Slayer, and she secretly loves it, because of course she didn't like being called bride or captive. So they get to work, and she is making this serum, and now here comes the problem. She doesn't know if it's going to work. It could give them a mild cold, it could give them a sore throat, or it could trigger the tracker, and it could explode. So anything could happen. And so one of the weaker soldiers is kind of like, because he's already hurt, he's like, I'll do it. And he apparently is in love with one of the other guys in the group. I can't think of their names. And it's already hard for the guy to watch him waste away. But at the same time, he feels like this is a sacrifice he wants to make. And then Hunter says, it's going to be me. They, of course, everyone's like, no, 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 no. But he's like, no, I'll do it. So now Ava's furious because she feels like, this is her serum. She should be the one to test it out. It shouldn't be him. And so Riker comes in while she's stirring the serum. Because she has to keep it, stirring it consistently for a period of time. And he baits her. And he tells her, yeah, I thought you were strong enough for him, but I guess you're not. And she says, I am strong enough for him. He says, are you sure? She's like, he's like, because if you are, then you should be with him right now. You don't know if these are your last moments together. And you shouldn't want them to be in anger. He's like, trust me, I know. And that did it. She realized she needed to go in there and she needed to talk to Hunter. And so she did. She goes into Hunter. They have a conversation. He does apologize. He tells her, I'm sorry. He's like, I wasn't trying to take away your choices. It's just that all I know how to do is protect my men. I'm their commander. I'm supposed to be the one that sacrifices. I look out for them. That's all I know. And that's all I've known for a very long time. Way before we even got to Dragon 25. And so after he spoke, she kind of understood, he wasn't trying to take away her choices. It's just like, this is kind of how it has to be. So she just hoped when it came time for her to do the serum for herself that, he would understand as well. He's going to have that same resolve. So she does the injection. He starts to feel heat at first. He feels okay. It's nothing too bad. And then it starts to get really bad. And he wants to talk, but nothing's coming out of his mouth. She starts to freak out because he's trying to say something, but he can't. And she's trying to find out like what's wrong with him. And then for him, everything goes black. When he finally wakes up, Ava feels him and she's like, oh my gosh, you're alive. So it had gotten pretty bad. He apparently had some seizures and stuff. It was really rough. They didn't think he was going to make it. But he's okay. And he, of course, wakes up and he's like, I'm alive. He's like, I need you. So um, the guys outside had heard some voices. So they came inside and they're like, oh, you're awake, you know. And he's like, I'm fine. And Riker's like, yeah, your girl was flipping out in here, you know. And he tells them, okay, I need you guys to go, you know. I need some time with her. So then they wind up leaving. They have their little session. She was really apologetic to him. Told him how much she was sorry. How terrified she was. How she thought she killed him and it was just too much for her to bear. And then they just had a little session. You know, she sucked him off. He ate her pussy and then he came inside her. So then they go, they're going to go test it out. They're going to see if this serum has worked. Because, how did she put it? She injected it in it. Yeah, it was an injection. So he goes where the drones are. Sure enough, it couldn't latch on, couldn't destroy them. So by this, when they went, only Riker and Hunter had taken the serum. So then now the issue is she's got to make the serum stronger for herself, but she also has to make more for the guys. So she's got to get more ore. She wants to try and weaken it a little bit so that they don't have to go through so much pain that Hunter and Riker went through. But he told her, don't do too much, you know, like, because we know this works. You don't want to weaken it to where it doesn't work, you know. So she's getting started on the serums. So now Hunter's really freaking out because he feels like he could lose her. And at this point for him, it feels like that's just not an option. So she tries to explain to him, I have been a prisoner to Hollingsworth with this technology in me, you know, and I need it out of me. And I need you to understand that I need that. So he's just kind of like, is it really that bad? He's like, when you get the urges, I can fulfill your need. Like, is that so bad? You know what I mean? Is it really worth you risking your life for this, you know? And he couldn't understand. I get it. Like, I understand why he feels that way, right? You're considering you're claiming you're going to do something that could kill you, instead of letting me pleasure you a lot. Like, but I also understand her thing of, it's like she's still tied to Hollingsworth if she has his technology inside of her and she wants it gone. I get that. And I get what he's saying too. It's a catch-22 kind of. But I don't know. You have this technology in you, but at the same time, it's like, but you were able to find such pleasure with Hunter. So even though this stuff is inside you, does he still really control? I don't know. But that's their fight. That's the conflict. She was hoping that he would, you know, accept her decision, but it's pretty hard for him to do it. So while they're having this conversation, they hear someone yelling for help. It's Pratt. And he makes Hunter makes her get behind him because he, of course, is like, We don't know if this is a trap or not. You need to stay behind me. So Pratt's crawling, he looks awful. Eyes look lifeless. He says, please help me, you know, all this type of crap. And then he tells the story of what happened. So apparently Hollingsworth unleashed on Drake and he's near death. Total chaos has erupted, all because they haven't been able to turn over Ava. Me personally, I don't buy this. I think this is a trap. He was too weak to me to get away the way they described him. So this doesn't feel right to me. And it doesn't feel right to Hunter either. So Ava's all like, no, we have to help him. Blah, 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 blah. So Hunter's like, okay, we'll help him, but a guard needs to be on him 24/7. You do not go near him without someone else being in the room. And so she agrees. So Hunter and Riker got to go get more of the serum. So they head off to get the rest so she can inoculate the other guys. And because she still has some there, but she needs more. He gives her a handmade knife that's made of some ore. And he says basically, if someone tries to come at you, you strike to kill. And you make sure you have an exit strategy. And he's like, and if you need to, you can melt this down and make more serum. He says, be safe. She says, be safe. He runs off. So she was getting ready to administer the serum. I want to say to Griffin. And then old Pratt, who I knew wasn't any fucking good. I was just like reading this. I'm like, I knew it. He put some stuff in the other guy's water that made the men pass out. She's woozy as well, but she hadn't drank enough of the water. And so he's like, you need to drink the rest of it. And she's like, what? And so then he hits her in the back of the head, and then everything goes black. So then we switch back to Hunter. Him and Riker, they're in the mine, and Hunter's going crazy. And he's trying to get, as much as he can, as fast as he can. And Riker's, doing his normal jokes. And he's like, dude, what are you trying to do? Take down the whole wall? And so they finally have a real conversation about blame and guilt. And so we find out that they've both been carrying around a lot of guilt for a long time. Sarah Lynn, who was Riker's wife, she was pregnant with his child when she got killed. And we find out that initially she wanted Hunter, but he never gave her the time of day. And so Riker came in and he convinced her that he was just as good of a man. He was a protector as well, all this type of stuff. But apparently he wasn't really that. And it's like he didn't want Hunter to feel guilty anymore. Hunter didn't want him to feel guilty anymore. So they kind of came to a resolution, and that was good. They both had made decisions, and they need to live with them. But he also explained to him that you got to start trusting your men more. You don't have to take on the burden every time. That's why we're here. And it's the same thing he said when it comes to Ava. She's got to be able to make her decisions too, and you support her just like you would want her to support you. You can't take over for people because you're trying not to lose people, or you're trying not to do this and that. You're pushing them away when you do that. And so it clicked for him coming from Riker. And he realized, he jokes a lot, but he clearly pays a lot more attention than people give him credit for. So he knew he was right. And so then all of a sudden they hear Griffin running towards them. And he knows something's wrong. And all Griffin can say is they took her. Yes, Drake is the one that has her now, and Pratt calls him Master. Ain't that a blimp? They still wind up killing him, Pratt. So he did all of that still to wind up dead. That's what's so crazy. So the plan is Drake wants to take out Hollingsworth as well. Like, he wants to take over New Earth. So he's just going to be just as bad. So they get to the elevator. Some droids are coming at them. And he starts looking kind of scared. And she's thinking, in her head, she's chanting, saying to herself inside, like, Hunter's going to come for me. He's going to find me. So she's now in front of Hollingsworth. Droids and drones are flying around. And Hollingsworth is happy to see her. But it's this twisted look he has on his face. And Drake's men try to attack. It doesn't work. They all wind up getting exploded because they have those trackers in them. And they all exploded. So they're done for. And we find out he's made some adjustments to the remote that controls her technology that's in her brain. And he's made it even more painful for her. And he has to inject this other piece into her. But once he does it, she can only take his sperm. And if she doesn't get it, she's going to die. I'm like, good grief. So she has come to the resolve, because he starts pressing the button. She's in pain. That she's going to die. But she's dying knowing, okay, Hunter's got a chance. If they get here, they won't be able to just kill him. And then she hears, get away from her, with that roar of a voice. It's Hunter. So then there's a whole showdown. And at first, they're winning. And then they got hurt a little bit. And he's trying to stay with Riker and the men. And Riker's like, no, go get her. Just go to her, So she's, writhing in pain. And Hollingsworth is losing it because he's shouting the order for the drones to do the explosion. It's not working. None of the trackers are working. And so now he's trying to make her die via suffering. So he tells Hunter, if you come any closer, I'll end her. So Ava tells him, stay back, my love. And he throws the axe to her. Well, he throws the axe. We're thinking, when you read it, even Hollingsworth thought he was throwing the axe at him, but he threw it to Ava. Ava caught it and went right up between his legs. And she says, looks like I win after all. So after that, they pretty much got to decide what they were going to do. There's a shuttle that could take them back to New Earth, but she doesn't want to go back there because she feels like if she goes back there, there's a possibility that, some other councilman is going to try and get her and make her a breeder again. So she's not down for that. Hunter knows that, he's not able to go back to New Earth either, and because he's a criminal there. So Riker was like, let's go search some other planets. Let's see what's out there. Let's explore. Because he doesn't want to stay on Dragon's 25 anymore. And so they come up with the compromise that the men can choose the group, what they want to do. They can stay, they can go back to Earth, or they can, travel the universe with Riker. Hunter and Ava are going to stay on Dragon's 25 because they want to try and build something there. They're going to destroy the mines. And that way, that stops producing stuff for Earth, And they're just going to try and make it a better place. So that's what they're going to try and do. And she's decided she's not going to do anything until she's absolutely sure that it could work when she makes this serum for herself. And that's how it ends. They're going to try and make it a better planet. And the next book is going to be called Tormented. And that's going to be Riker's story. I am super excited to read that. What did you all think of Taken? I really liked it. I liked her story. I thought Riker, in all honesty, was going to be like a whole traitor. I was so waiting for him to turn. And he was a good dude. I was like, oh. I was just so sure that someone close to Hunter was going to take him down. But it worked out great. Let me know what you guys think. Drop down in the comment section and let me know. If you are in the market for a beautiful notebook or journal, I do have those on sale, and those links are going to be available down below in the description section. Make sure you like and subscribe. And as always, I truly do thank you all for your support, and thank you for tuning in to the Always Reading Book Club.